show you guys how to use oil pastels today. So here's what you need. You need the paper, white piece of paper. Preferably, I would suggest not to use photocopy paper, something thicker like from your sketchbook. The oil pastels that I gave you, not necessarily any particular color. And then a paper towel. Tissue paper might not be the best, something a little more sturdier, like paper towel or even a napkin will do, because you're going to use this to clean your oil pastels. And then you are going to be looking at both of these, the using values and blending. So both of these handouts are slightly different. This one deals with tints and shades, going from solid white to solid black. Solid white to a pure hue. Remember, a hue is just a fancy word for saying color, so you can choose any color you want. You can choose red like it is in here, or you can do a blue. So white to that solid color. And then I want you to switch the color and not choose the one you choose here to put over here. So if you did red, do blue here. Blue, and it can be a baby blue, it can be a dark blue. It doesn't matter if you have lighter or darker ones, right? And then switch it, have it go to black. So that's the tints and shades handout for values. And then the blending, you don't have to do one or the other first. It doesn't matter which order you do it. Do this handout. Now you're just going to copy the rectangles onto your piece of paper, right? So I'm going to demonstrate this one, and then I'll demonstrate the one of the value ones. Okay, so the blending. So I'm just going to take a pencil and make a rectangle. You can do everything on this one piece of paper, right? So you're just going to have a bunch of rectangles going across the page, doing each one, right? So there's my rectangle. And the first thing I'm going to do is go from red to yellow, right? Now, just like with paint, think of this as being paint, but paint that's more solid. And I think maybe a little easier to use. That'll be up to you to determine. All right, so you always, just like with paint, you always want to start with the lighter color, right? In this case being yellow. So I'll put yellow. Before you do that though, you see how my yellow has some other colors on it? So that's what the paper towel is for. So you clean your colors with the paper towel. And you're gonna be doing this a lot for the white, especially, because everything overpowers the white. Okay, so I'm gonna clean off my yellow and then put it on there. So oil pastels are basically glorified crayons, right? Why do I say glorified? Well, because they're made out of the same thing crayons are, but they are softer, so they come off easier. And you want to be aware or mindful of these little pieces that come up, right? And I'm just gonna either wipe them off on the paper towel or just pick them up with my finger, okay? Now, these are not soft pastels. Soft pastels are chalky, right? These will kind of get on your skin. You can wash them off. If this gets on your clothing, by the way, you're not going to be able to get it off as easily. They're almost just as hard or difficult to get off as acrylic, right? So we're going from yellow to orange. Notice how far off I went and put the yellow, extended past the line. So I'm going to grab orange. Right, again, do yourself a favor and clean it. And now I'm just going to put directly on top. And yes, try and stay inside the lines as best you can. Right? Just like with paint, you want to be careful how much of it you're putting of that one color, right? And then we're going to go from orange to red, or red-orange. That's what the RO stands for, and the YO stands for yellow-orange, right? Oh, careful, because they do break. It's okay if they break. Just maybe a little more difficult to use them. Okay. All right. To get rid of that line, I'm going to take yellow, all right? And most people think that you can just use your finger and blend it, but when you do that, you're also putting some of that on your fingers, right? So you're taking off color, right? Best thing to do is just grab the lighter color, in this case the yellow, and put it directly over it. And this is where it gets a little tricky. And blending that, having it overlap. Now you can get smooth transitions with oil pastels. They are just not as easy to do. Okay, so I'm gonna wipe it and then do the same thing over here. You do not want to take the orange and try and blend it going this way. You will end up overpowering the yellow completely. Okay, each time I am cleaning that end that I'm using to fade it out. And so you're just going to fade it out until, I'm going to use my finger just a little bit. You get a nice clean solid yellow to orange. All right, because in here in the center, between the yellow and the orange, you should have this yellow orange showing up, right? So we still have solid yellow, we still have solid orange, and now we have the yellow orange in between. Okay, and try and get it as smooth as you can so that you don't have that solid edge line that I did earlier right here. All right, so that's better. So this is kind of what we want. Okay, as close to this as possible. All right, now I can go over to the red orange. All right, so grab the red, wipe it so that there's no other color on there, and then put the solid red on there. Doing really tiny details is difficult with oil pastels because there's no point on them and you can't just sharpen them. Do yourself a favor, and as you're using them, maybe rotate them so you're not just using one side, and that can also give you a little bit of a point to it. Okay, all right, so I filled out that left side and now I'm ready to go into the orange. Be mindful that you can't just easily pick it back up if once you mix it here and put it back over here, because you probably will have some orange in that. So that's why you want to just make it a habit of cleaning off your oil pastel whenever you go from one color to another. All right, I'm going to wipe it. And since orange is lighter than red, I'm going to switch back to orange and do a better job of blending that line, that transition. All right, see how I got rid of that line? And then do the same thing over there. And so this is what you're going to be doing for each one of these. All right, so in the next one you can do yellow to green and then to blue. And then you're going to do blue to red. All right, so that's the blending with the different colors. Now let's go ahead and do the value changes. Okay, so this yellow, so I'm going to go to blending, and here's the worksheet. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Values. And so look, there's already orange all over my yellow. Okay, you can make it a habit of cleaning it each time or just right before you use it. They will inevitably all end up having all a bunch of different colors. Okay, and just be mindful of what you're touching because you're getting it all over your fingers too and your clothing if you want to be aware. All right, I'm gonna fold this to get a nice clean one now. Do one of these rectangles, another one. So just keep in mind, I'm switching over to the other worksheet just to show you. But you're going to do everything on this paper. So you're going to end up with 1, 2, 3, a total of 6 rectangles going down your paper. If you can't fit them all here, just grab another paper. Don't do it on the back. If you do it on the back, especially if you have a loose paper, guess what happens if you flip this over and you start drawing on it? You're going to end up rubbing a bunch of this onto your table or whatever surface you're working on. Okay, let's go with the easy white to black, right, which is this. And then start off with white. Remember, white you will most likely have to clean the most out of all of the oil pastels just because it's the lightest and it easily picks up any color. All right. And yes, the paper is already white, but in order for us to blend it with the black, we need to have some of the oil pastel on there. So you see how I already got a little bit of blue on there? So just be mindful of that. right? We want a nice gradual change from solid white to solid black. Look how far I went. I'm going past the halfway. Halfway would be here. Okay. So I'm going to put a good amount of it on there. Try and scrape up some of those little shavings. And now I'll grab the black. So it's solid black over here. The black is probably the only one oil pastel that you probably don't have to clean, because nothing can really cover up the black. All right, and then we just go over towards the white. And as we go towards the white, I'm going to ease up on the pressure, because remember, a little bit of black goes a long way. I'm going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to come in with the white and put it directly over the oil pastel. And you see how it automatically makes it into that gray? You want to move that gray over to the left a little bit more. Spreading it. Just like these up here. 0 through 7, right? So it gets lighter as we go to the left. And getting those smooth transitions is a little tricky when using oil pastels. I want you to try your best to try and get them as smooth as you can. Okay. All right, this is a pretty good transition right now in terms of the values, having those grays. I'm going to make this side a little darker. So going in with the black. So you're going to be doing that. We're practicing this because you're going to be doing this in your portrait essentially. But in your portrait, you're going to be using probably more of these because they tend to be more in our skin tones. So a lot of white, this peach will be pretty important. To make that, you use white, yellow, orange, and a little bit of red, and even a little bit of brown. Okay. Our skin has all those different colors. All right, so what we're trying to avoid is those little lines like we would have no matter what type of shading we're doing, whether we're doing it with pencil, paint, or in this case, oil pastels, right? There is no blending tool per se when it comes to using oil pastels. You're just using the oil pastels, being mindful of the pressure you're applying and which one you're putting over another one. Okay. So I'm just going to put some more white on here to blend those lines, and be mindful of how much pressure you're adding. Okay, wipe it. I'm going to get rid of this line right there, or that transition, so it's a little smoother. Okay. And then carry that over towards the right. See how that's slowly getting rid of it? Now, you won't get as smooth of a transition as you will if you were using regular pencil, right? Or even kind of paint, just because that's the way oil pastels work. Okay. Doing super detailed things is a little more intensive when it comes to oil pastels. All right. You can use your finger from time to time just to kind of blend or smudge things a little better, but do not use a lot of it because you end up just scraping off some of that color or some of that value. Sometimes I just use it to get rid of some of those lines. I'm barely even adding pressure, by the way. I'm just almost just dabbing it with my finger just to get a smoother transition, right? So now I have solid white to solid black. And that's what you're going to do for this one. The top one. And then this one, again, solid white. You choose a color. So it can be any one of these, right? I just wouldn't use yellow because it's pretty light, right? You won't be able to see it. So use something a little like in between, like an orange or a red, or in any one of these other darker ones, right? And then the last one, switch the color up and go straight to black. Okay, so that's how you're doing these two handouts. So this one is the tints, the values, and then the other one is the blending of the color. Okay. All right.